Larsson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly, how about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. My name is Ryan Clifford and joining me on this episode before the Falkirk game tomorrow is Shaun. Well Shaun, how are you mate? I don't think I've ever spoke to you since New Year or Christmas mate, so I hope you're very well, had a good time with your family. And Celtic are back mate, transfer talk. We'll just get into that mate. How are you and what's your feelings so far mate of the January window?
Hi Ryan, nice to be back mate, nice to be back chatting with you. Good evening to all that's tuning in. I had a good Christmas mate, hope you did yourself. An even better New Year, a quiet one, so it was all good. But yeah, back to obviously domestic football with Celtic, obviously a change of manager, hallelujah, and back to winning. Obviously off the back of our win at the weekend there, very convincing, looked really good. And yeah, all set for Falkirk tomorrow, which will be a difficult game. It's late kick-off and cold nights, that plastic pitch. It will be a difficult night for us.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it will be probably pretty cold, and it's a must-win for us, Shaun, isn't it? So, got some comments in. G-Doc, good evening. Brian Harkin, good evening, everybody. Mark McDonald, he says good evening, and host in the chat. Paul McLaughlin's in, or P. McLaughlin. I'm guessing it's Paul, but it might not be. Hope you're very well. Dogs dying in hot cars. All right. Even everybody with a shambles of a football club from top to bottom of the department, will it get worse? Thoughts, lads? We'll touch on that. Thanks for the comment. Big Grab, hail gents, what transfer talk there's for getting done. Hi Rab, we'll touch on that as well. Evening boys, Plunge, and Brian Harkin says 30th of January and not a proper striker link. We'll just get in it, Shaun. Obviously the big conversation at the moment, mate. Obviously Daniel and JP touched on their opinions and obviously chatted on it yesterday. The striker situation, that is a 13th. We were probably expecting one roughly before the Rangers game or just after. There's no real proper links apart from Kieran Billy, we'll touch on, and the striker from France, Bamba. But what's your take on the striker situation, mate? Are you quite calm about it? Are you patient, or are you maybe like myself getting a wee bit concerned and frustrated with the lack of activity, maybe the lack of quality names that we're getting linked with as well?
I've not hit the panic button just yet, Ryan. Purely because, we need to get a striker. There's no two ways about it. It needs to be done, so I'm sure it will get done. I just don't know what that looks like for the fans, because like one of the commenters said there, like there's been no transfer links with any strikers. So, but maybe that's you never know with these things either, Ryan. Sometimes there's loads of transfer rumours that go about, and it turns out none of them, they are just rumours, and there's no weight to them. So I will see the Kieran Bowie one. You obviously touched on there. He has got a lot of good attributes as a striker. I think if he came to Celtic, he would do a job, but it wasn't somebody I would have thought of off the top of my head. But put it this way, Ryan, I'm more excited. I'm more at ease now that we've got Martin and we're making our transfers, because if we still had Nancy and we were talking about signing guys, I would be really, really worried.
Aye, I think we all would, mate. I think we were all a wee bit concerned when probably Nancy got announced. There was a few red flags, and then we're thinking, right, we've had some positivity about him and negativity, but we'll see how he goes. We need to trust the process. As much as I have been a bit of an advocate for changing the club and criticising the board for certain parts that we've done, they have been pretty decent in managers. Whether people think they've got lucky or not, the managers that have came to the club, take away Tony Mowbray and take away now Nancy, it's actually been pretty decent. I know Dialer isn't the best in Europe, etc., but in terms of success, they've been actually all right for managers wise. So we all thought, right, okay, we'll just have to see how it turns out. And I seen within maybe 2 or 3 games, Shaun, that it wasn't going to work out. The Roma game for me was, I kind of said before the game against Roma, right, it is a bit of a free pass. It's European football. He's just come in. It's his first time in Europa League. But then when I seen the team he put out, the feet at the back, and then I seen the way the team were reacting to it, I'm thinking, right, red flag here. And then the cup final for me, mate, that was the final straw. I was like, right, I think it's time to get rid. And eventually we got rid. Obviously, all the best to him. I hope he works out elsewhere. But overall, at Celtic, Shaun, I think it was the right decision to let him go.
No, I completely agree, and even more so to get rid of him for this window, because who knows who he might have signed, Ryan. You know, he had zero credibility for me. I couldn't even watch him. I couldn't even watch his interviews. I couldn't stand listening to the man. I thought he just waffled, and yeah, he was totally and utterly out his depth. Likewise to yourself, I don't ever want to see anybody lose a job, or, you know, be put out a job or whatnot. But he had to go, and I wish him all the best wherever he goes. I'm sure his football, you know, as veering more into the modern game, you're seeing a lot of teams playing that style. I just think, for me, it was always the case, keep Martin till the end of the season. And if you want Nancy, get him in pre-season and give him his players and give him the full pre-season. But to try and get him in at that time they did, it was nuts, absolutely nuts. But it happened, and like you said, they haven't ever really got much wrong in terms of management. So we can't always expect them to get it right. But I just hope, for our sake, his time at Celtic wasn't enough to hinder us completely for going after the league, mate.
I agree with you on that, Shaun. I think it could potentially hammer us, but if we get, hopefully, I say hopefully because I think that's all we say at the moment, that we do get players in and they are of substantial quality to a degree. We don't just want to sign it, as much as it sounds daft, Shaun, I would rather we sign nobody up front than just sign a random just for the sake of it and they might not even play, like a Yamada, who we've signed him and he's not even playing. So I'd rather no sign somebody for the sake of having a wage and a transfer fee or a loan deal, a big loan fee, when the guy might not even be good enough to sit on your bench. So I don't think we can afford to stockpile players, mate. We need guys to come in now and make an impact. And like you mentioned there, Kieran Bibby, I don't know what the viewers and the commenters, what's your thoughts on Kieran Bibby? There's talk about 6.5 million. I'm going to try and be balanced on this, Shaun. There's two ways I can look at it. Is for what Kieran Bibby's done, is £6.5 million a big fee for him? I would say yes. Do I think we should pay that fee for a guy in Scotland right now in terms of what he's done? Probably not. But if you contrary the other argument is, you could probably say that potentially he'll score a lot of goals in this Celtic team if we're going to go attacking. And if Yang starts playing well again, well, he is playing well, but Tanecki plays well, Maeda, etc., Engels' assists, McGregor, he might score a lot of goals here. Potentially, he could actually win his league with his goals and he could potentially get better under Celtic. So I think there's an argument for both, mate. For what he's done so far, would you pay the fee? Probably not. But if he then pay the fee and wins you the league, the £6.5 million will be nothing, because then you're one step for getting into the Champions League as well, and that could help you. So do I think right now he's the best player you can get to lead the league for Celtic? Probably not, but you could say potentially it could be, Shaun. So what's your take on the Kieran Bibby, mate? Would you pay the money or do you still? I know every side's a gamble, Shaun. I get that, but do you think we can buy better, or do you think we just need to maybe no be snobbery, look closer to home? You then beating Hibs, you then beating Rangers because they can't buy him, and we can back to that Scott Allen Samaras thing, or do you just think he is good enough to play for Celtic and help the team?
Yeah, you know, I'm not totally against going and getting strikers that are, you know, played in Scotland and, you know the Scottish game. I've had strikers like that, you know, Anthony Stokes, you know, played in Scotland, and he was a good striker for us by all accounts. He's no one you would go to off the top of your head, but he was still a good striker for us. So I'm not against going and getting guys from Scotland. There is some really good talent came out of Scotland, you know, like Hickey and Ferguson, and who have went on to be successful elsewhere as well. So I think you need to be careful about also turning your nose up to people playing in Scotland as well, because you know, there is talented players there that, you know, can be successful at, you know, a big club, and that's been proven early years. So but I like him. You know, he's big, he's physical. He seems like he'd be a Martin O'Neill type player, striker. You know, in terms of what Martin used to like in his system. You know, times gone by. So he fits sort of the criteria a striker that Martin O'Neill would use. I do like him, but the only concern for me is the price tag. $6.5 million is quite a lot. That's a good point Rab makes there. Maybe 4 was maybe like a sell on if he does actually want to be successful at Celtic. And I don't know, $6.5 million is quite a lot considering how much did we pay for Giakoumakis?
2.5 or something, mate, something like that.
There is strikers out there, Ryan, that you know, you can get for cheap and who can do a job for you, but it's just this window. You know, Martin spoke about it. Even back then, it was a difficult window to do business in. So I do think there is frailties with the board, but I also do think we're trying to operate in a difficult transfer window, which we all knew. So it might be the case we just need to, we might need to just go for it, mate. Maybe, you know, like you said, he's got the talent about him to, you know, anything's, dare I say it, anything's got to be better than Johnny Kenny up top.
That's the standard we've got to win it.
I've been really unlucky, mate, because any actual getting injured and Osman getting injured when, you know, Osman was coming on to a game, but all except so we've been really unlucky, I know.
I did see Sriracha in actual training today, so I don't. Maybe they might get some minutes on Sunday, or maybe just keep him for the following week. But I seen somebody asked, "Is he cap?" Yeah, he's got 2 caps, I think, for Scotland, Kieran Bowie. So the thing is, well, with Kieran Bowie, I would say, Shaun, and he's got a decision to make as well, because if he stays at Hibs and does well, he might get in the World Cup team. But if he plays with Celtic and scores just about every week, or does really, really well, and say we sign him, just say we sign him this week, he's got potential 2 European games, say he does well in them, there's actually a chance, I'm just talking hindsight here, there's actually a chance he might actually start for Scotland if he's doing well with Celtic. But if he's doing well with Hibs, he might get in the team, he might come off the bench, he might get the odd minute in the World Cup. But if he starts with Celtic and scores just about every week, he's definitely put himself in a better picture than he is playing with Hibs. I don't know if you think about that.
I totally agree with you, mate, because at Celtic it's a higher pressure, it's a higher stress. So if he's able to do it for Celtic, then that scenario you presented, if that was to actually come to fruition, then it would be a no-brainer for me that he would have to start for Scotland, because, you know, you're playing at the biggest club in Glasgow, and, you know, the champions, and you're.
Sorry, I meant foresight, no hindsight. Sorry, thanks. No hindsight.
If that was to come to fruition, everything you've said there, then he would have to just, in my opinion, you would have to get straight into the striker's position, because, you know, if you're doing it at Celtic and you're doing it in European level, then you can't really argue with that. he's got to go straight into the team. But it's a great point to make. If he's thinking that that's something, a goal of his that he could, aim towards, then certainly making that move to Celtic makes that more a possibility and a reality for him, Ryan.
And there's another name that's been linked, is Callum Wilson. Again, I think he's cut his contract short at West Ham. If I can remember correctly, if I'm wrong, somebody can quote me, but I'm sure he took a wage cut to sign for West Ham. I could be wrong, but I'm sure I've seen that. Obviously, he's played 17 games this year. He's played, I think he scored four or five goals, so one of the best of strike rate, but considering he's come off the bench and people are, again, it's one of the ones, do we want to sign free transfers? No, but as we've said, Shaun, where we are at the present time, we probably need to speak about it. 33-year-old, experienced, he's done well wherever he's went. In my opinion, I disagree with you, G-Doc. I wouldn't say that he's shite, mate. He's very, very experienced. I know he's had a lot of injuries. I get it. It is a gamble, but like Chris Sutton says, as much as me, yourself, Shaun, anybody in this chat who's talking tonight, we don't want to gamble on players. We don't want to be in this situation of getting loans or free transfers or last-minute deals. But ultimately, we are where we are, Shaun, and I know he's injury-prone. Yes, Kev is a free transfer if we sign him. Are we, as Chris Sutton says, Shaun, do we have to go and get the gamble of Callum Wilson? Because me personally, I would rather take the gamble on Callum Wilson for 3 to 4 months than go and pay 6, 7, 8, 9 million pounds for somebody for a foreign country that we don't know about. I don't know what you think about that, but what's your take on that?
I'm trying not to get sort of... I've not gave it much weight, this whole Callum Wilson sort of that's been floating about, because I would really like the idea of it, so I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much, because I think he's a top striker. I think he's absolutely brilliant, and every time I've watched him, he gets right stuck in. He throws his cell about. He's up for the fight. He's passionate. I like the guy. I think he's really, really good. And even at the age he is, he's still going to score you goals. And I think it'd be a good player on the pitch. If you were playing amongst them, and I would go for him. I definitely would. I would, like you said, you could bring somebody in it. So injuries don't really. It doesn't come into it for me if somebody's had a history of injuries, because anybody can get injured. So.
Well, like you mentioned there, the chat was before the summer about Kieran Tierney being injured. He's played about 35 games this year. I know he's not played every 90 minutes, but he's played more games than probably a lot of Celtic fans thought. I kind of thought he would come here and play a lot more than people thought. I think you would need to manage him, but to be fair, Shaun, apart from maybe a wee niggle, I know he might. I think you might see the best of Kieran Tierney next season. If I'm maybe thinking, trying to be positive in the situation that he's not been at his best yet. But as Martin says in his presser, he's a lot fitter now when he came to the club. He's getting fitter every game. I understand when he's getting high wages, he's came for Arsenal, you've got to have him boom Kieran Tierney. But for me, there's still flashes there, Shaun, Kieran Tierney of old. His deliveries are, in my opinion, are world class. Maybe defensively he's maybe not as good, or maybe he's powerful going forward, but his certain games, mate, he's been really good, and I still think it's the right call to bring him back, in my opinion. So the injury situation could be the same as Callum Wilson. He's injured prone, but he can come to Celtic and not get injured. So it just depends on what happens. So I'm only bringing that up because he's in the media, mate. There's talk about coming to Celtic. He's a free transfer. Again, it's going to split opinions. People say, no, he's injury prone, he's too old. I don't think 33 is too old. We've got Castor Speichering goes at 39. So is that too old? Do you know what I mean? So you've got McGregor, who's come up for 33. He's your captain. So I don't think it's too much of a worry personally. But the striker situation, Shaun, is anybody that you've got an eye on, or are you just hoping and praying, like myself probably, that we get somebody in, probably especially before the Hearts game, because I don't think we can have Johnny Kenny leading the game at Tynecastle. I personally think the game's too big for him at this present time, and I don't think he's enough just yet.
Do you know, I don't really know what's out there, Ryan. I'll be perfectly honest about with strikers, especially in the market that we're trying to shop in. It's a very, very difficult one, but I like Wilson and all, like I said, and like you said, he's 33, but he's clearly looked after himself throughout his career. Always kept in good shape and whatnot, so wouldn't be an issue for me, mate, if the team was something going on with your screen, mate. I don't know, it's
Was it froze?
You've gone completely.
Is it? I'll refresh. 2 wee seconds. Just talk, mate.
Surprised one of the viewers never got in before me. They're normally quite quick. But we'll see what happens if he comes back or not. Might need to lone wolf it. I agree with what Bolton boys saying there. Callum Wilson with no legs would be better than Kenny.
Pun says, Ryan, you're 32. I'm 32, mate. No, I can't make a comeback. My knees knackered. The number 9 Ryan boots, CTR boots in the cupboard, mate. So I'm done. But Shaun, I agree with you. And obviously, Callum Wilson, he's better than Johnny Kenny. His Bolton boy says, yeah. Obviously, Stephen Welsh is now come back as well, mate. It's another topic. What's your thoughts on that? I'm a wee bit. I understand Martin says it's our player. We're able to bring him back, but surely, this is just me. You might be different, or the viewers might be different. Surely, we set Stephen Welsh out on loan because they don't feel he's good enough to continue at Celtic longer term. Was he 25 now? He's playing well at Motherwell. I understand he's your player and they want to bring him back to cover. But surely Cameron Carter-Vickers is out for the season, right? So you've got 3 centre-backs in Trusty, Scales and Dane Murray. And Dane Murray, unless there's injuries or suspensions, he's probably not going to play, right? So you're sitting with 2 centre-backs. Surely before even the thought process of bringing Stephen Welsh back, surely between the Vickers injury and now, surely there's been a centre-back lined up or tried to get, because surely Stephen Welsh isn't the first protocol, mate. That's just my opinion, mate. That a forward-thinking club should be looking to get that in before even recalling Stephen Welsh. That's just my thought, mate. Don't you think about that?
Well, it's a fair point, mate. And obviously they let go of Pusey, didn't they? And then they brought Welsh in.
By the way, he played 90 minutes for Cologne at the weekend.
Well, I know. Well, that's a strange one. You know,
it's strange, isn't it?
Why not give Pusey a shot rather than recall Stephen Welsh? It's, doesn't make sense. I've never been a fan of Stephen Welsh, but clearly some other Celtic managers have. I mind under Angie's spell, there was a few bids came in from an Ange when they let him go. So he obviously does show something in training to these managers that make them go, right, I'm going to keep this boy about. As far as I know, he's done really well at Motherwell this season. But if you're Stephen Welsh, you must be gutted because you went from playing first team football every week, more or less, to then being a backup for any injuries to your centre back. So I feel for Stephen Welsh, but Celtic need to look after their own interest, and their own interest is, having the reserves, having the cover to see the rest of this season. So I do feel a wee bit first getting recalled, but I would
It was a Brown Warrior. Everyone is assuming that Welsh was sent alone to get rid of him. What if he would like Mulgrew, Ayer, Scales, prove himself and haven't done so? Again, good point, Brown Warrior, but I'm only thinking Scales' age. He's 25 now. If you're 25 and you're not really consistently playing with Celtic or getting a lot of chances, then it's just my opinion, Shaun. I think that's maybe time to call it quits and maybe try and get yourself out of a career, but playing every week, if it's at Motherwell and developing, because sitting in Celtic's bench, yeah, it's still good. You're part of, hopefully, potentially, a winning team. You're playing with better players, etc. Surely you play football every week, mate, than sitting in Celtic stands. Or that's just what I think, mate.
I know. I totally agree, mate. I think surely it was the same with Mikey Johnson when he had chance after chance with Celtic, and he just wasn't going to ever cut it at Celtic. And I feel the same with Stephen Welsh. He's just no physical enough, Ryan. He's had chances, he's had moments where over the years where players have been injured and he's had to fall in, or whatever scenarios presented for him to be in the team, but he's just no go to it. I don't think. Maybe the viewer who's mentioned there, he's had time away. He might be different when he comes back. Who knows?
I can understand your thinking there, Brown Warrior, but I don't think we'll be playing feet back again.
No, we've all got trauma. We've all got serious trauma. But I know that's the Welsh thing. I've never been a fan of Welsh, Ryan. So he's here. Fair play to him. See what happens.
We comment now from the Dogs Dining Cars. Other two clubs at the top of the league are getting business done, looking like moving forward. However, we live in the dark ages. It's worrying. I'll contrary to yourself, Shaun, after you have a wee discussion on that. What's your thoughts on the viewers' comment there?
I don't really concern myself with Rangers. But obviously I do, right? I'm not saying that, but I mean like their transfer business.
Yeah.
Because they've failed remarkably over the years with their transfer business. Even at the start of the season, I mean half their team, you wouldn't even put them in our team. So I'm not concerned about what they do, because I don't think they ever get it right, to be honest. But Hearts, they're obviously strengthening that. That would be a concern, because they already have got a healthy squad. They've got a good squad. I look at even their bench. They've got a really strong bench. So if they were to get one or two players in that were to already add to the first team squad's quality, then that's really going to kick them on even more. So I'm still confident Celtic will get the business done, Ryan. I've not got over concerns with it.
I'm hoping we'll get it done, mate. I'm more hopeful than confident, if I'm being honest, Shaun. But I do think we need to. I think if the board and the recruitment team, I know Maloney's working with Martin on this, and again they might try and take the flack off it, so the board don't get any more flack, which I can understand. They're going to maybe do that as well, but I think if we don't get this right, then mate, I do believe there will have to be changes, because we can't go 4 windows or 4 windows without getting it right. I know every window's not going to be perfect, but we've knew since the summer last October to replace Kyle, because that's when he says he wanted to go. We've not replaced Nicholas Kuhn. I think in terms of maybe the quality wise, well, it's all right saying we've signed players, but when it looks at mate Barrett Reese is probably not going to cut the mustard. Again, we've not seen him properly, so we need to try and gain the benefit of doubt, but doesn't look like it. I thought Taneki did play well at the weekend, to be fair to him. Hopefully he can kick on for that, but surely, Shaun, we can't leave everything to the last week in January. Surely this January we're going to get players in, because I think if we get players in the last week again and we're panic buying again, there will be more flack on the board, mate, especially if they don't get it right.
No, I do agree with you, mate, and it just goes back to the summer where they're just. If they just gave Rodgers the investment he wanted, I know hindsight we can say that now, and there obviously was the argument, he got money last year, and the board probably never saw any real, profit on the players for, to sell on, and Ida, Engels, Bernardo, etc. Trust me. So they probably were a wee bit pragmatic in how much money they wanted to give Rodgers, but if they're not going to get it right in the next 2 windows, then they may as well have just gave Rodgers the money at the start of the season, and would have probably qualified for Champions League and would have been halfway towards securing Champions League for next year. So they've went, pardon my French, arse to elbow about it, but they need to sign in this window, Ryan. I don't think there's any other alternative or other choice, and I think they are working on it. Because if they don't, there's just going to be absolute pandemonium for the fans. They know they're already under the cosh. But it's interesting to hear what Martin Neil's saying about, like, you know, he has been offered players, but it's not the right player. So, you know, that's a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, the bad thing is the board are coming in with players that Martin doesn't see of the quality and standards that he needs. And then the positive of that is, like, Martin O'Neill's telling them that, and they're right, okay, then. So they're obviously going back to the drawing board, but times are ticking, mate. That's the problem.
Aye, and what I find interesting is you're bang on there. We'll touch on Martin's presser. You're bang on about Brendan Rodgers. As much as what anybody thinks about him, listen, there's people that are going to say he's this and that, and he shouldn't have walked it. But we don't know the reasons behind it, all right? We can maybe get a rough guide, but we don't really know, right, what the conversation was. But you're right, mate. If Brendan Rodgers was backed, albeit there's going to be people who say, well, if he's not going to commit maybe a new deal, etc., why give him money? Well, my response to that would be, Shaun, well, he's still the manager. Celtic still need to move on. Whether I'm a manager, yourself, Brendan Rodgers, Celtic still need to go from strength to strength or try and give Celtic the best chance possible. And I don't think they've done that with Rodgers. Whether or not he wanted to stay or longer term or whatever else, for that season, he's a manager. They didn't back him, and I'm like you. If he strengthened in the summer and gave Brendan the money, we wouldn't be in this situation. That's my analysis. It's funny that Martin says that about getting offered players, and he basically says that they're no up to it or they don't feel that they're ready to sign for Celtic. Brendan Rodgers said the exact same thing this summer, and he got lambasted. Why is he not taking players off Tisdale? Why is he not signing players? Why are we not getting a right back and a striker? But when Brendan says it's all Brendan's fault. But now Martin's saying it. Martin's a legend. Martin's taking control. Martin's brilliant. So surely there's got to be a balance, mate. We can't just all blame it on Brendan. And Martin's saying the exact same thing that Brendan said.
And that is a concern, isn't it? That a lot of the managers that have been in have all said this the sort of same thing. What's JP saying? I agree as well, JP. I think Martin O'Neill obviously knows what he wants to make this team better. Imagine it. You could see it. You could see it happen. But no,
that's what 70 million was kept by for us. That's your Peter Lawwell. Oh, brilliant.
I think JP, I'm obviously in the same mould there, mate. I feel like Martin O'Neill will get maybe that's the hold up. Maybe he's just been so, digging his heels in and saying, no, I'm not going to accept what you're offering me. I'm not wanting these players, and I want players that that I want, that I like the look of. So if he is doing that, maybe that's what's holding it up as well. But I do still, like I said earlier, I do still think it's a very, very difficult market to work in as the January one. But you'll possibly see maybe at the end of this week, starting next, just like in typical Celtic way, they just like a flurry of players, 1, 2, 3, in quick succession. I hope that is the case. Because we have managed to sign good players in the January window as well, I will say that much.
I think you're right, mate. I think it's got to be, as much as we want players in quickly, we just need quality players. If it comes to it, it's the last week of the window, we need to take it because we need to win the league. But I'm going to say similar to what I said last January, even though we were quite all right in the league, we were doing okay in Europe for the Champions League. If we start the rebuild in January, it takes a rebuild off us in the summer because, again, it's just my thinking that we are going to probably have an overhaul. I think we spoke about it 2-3 weeks ago, Shaun, that I think we're going to have an overhaul in January, summer. I think there'll be a lot of guys leaving, and I think there'll need to be an influx of players coming in, and not just players to develop and sit on the bench, players to come in, because I've got a feeling Maeda might go, Hatate might go, Casper might go or retire. Now, this is just me. I'm not saying I know anything. I don't know anything. do you keep Iheanacho? I don't know. Will Yang stay? Will he want to stay? Will Balak stay? Will he go and will we cut losses in him? Will Johnny Kenny go on loan? Will Tusty or Scales stay? Will they get moved on? Sriracha, is he going to come back in? Ralston? I know we can probably go through every player, but I think we're a wee bit end of a cycle, Sean, and we need to refresh. So surely a forward-thinking, moving, modernising club, they would start it a wee bit now and not wait till we have an overhaul in the summer. But I get it can be hard to get every player you want. I understand that. But surely leaving it to the end of January, starting the middle or the end of the summer, it's going to leave you short, because if we win the league, you've got a playoff, which gives you a wee tiny bit of time. But if we don't win the league and we finish second or third, I think it's Europa League qualifiers. I think surely we can't get into the summer playoff, mate. Again, lacking in the signing, surely you start it a wee bit now and then hopefully you get more in the summer.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with you, and it goes back to that summer past. If we'd have got the ball rolling there as well, mate, you know, that's 3, 4 or 5 players in, you know, first team players, no these bloody, you know, prospect players, and that's what we were all crying out for at the end of last season, just to get players that are ready to come into the team, the first team, and compete straight away, straight off the bat. That's what we all wanted, but it never came. And if we'd have done that then the rebuild, the overhaul that we'd have needed this summer wouldn't have been as, you know, as severe as well. So there's been a real lack in looking forward. I believe, and it's in that lack of looking forward actually set us back, mate. I just hope that, you know, that like I said, that Martin's obviously got a particular player he wants. I hope these players are players that are going to come straight into this team and instantly make everybody around about them better. That's what we need. That's what we're crying out for.
Yep.
And it needs to happen. And like you said, if we get some of that done now, come the summer, it makes it a lot easier, because I believe as well that we are going to lose. Even if you think that we won't lose players or what, but I believe that we need to move players on. We need to move some of them on. The cycles ran its course now. Every football always runs in cycles, and players and coaches and managers, and I think this is the Ange cycle coming to its end. The players that were there under his tenure, so it's definitely going to be a big rebuild for us in the summer.
Obviously, you want to try and look to win the league every season, and you don't really want to think of the negatives or anything that could happen. But also, Sean, with the way this is, you need to try and we need to try and understand that we might actually not win the league, right? You try to think of it, but my worry is and concern is, it's just mine. You might be different. Other guys and females in the comments might be different, but my worry is or concern is that the model that has been there, me personally, I don't think the model is working anymore. I think it's got to be modernised or tweaked. It has to be modernised. The model that we have had has helped us in a degree get the financial stability. If we don't win the league, Rangers win the league, they go right into the Champions League, I think. And then they're going to get between 35, 40 million probably. They might sell one of their big assets. If they have any big assets in the summer, they're going to get money for that. They're going to spend money, and then the financial gap cuts again. My worry is then everything we have worked towards, because you mentioned there, probably the last 3 to 4 windows, we've not invested and helped the team properly to the degree. That hard work that they have done to a degree is kind of diminishing, and then we're chasing again to try and, because I know we sell a major asset every year anyway. I get that, Sean, but it's going to be a necessity if we don't win the league this year and get into the Champions League. Even if we don't win the league, if you don't get in the Europa League, you're struggling financially. So that's my big worry, Sean, is if we don't win the league and get in the Champions League, that's your £40 million potentially down, 35 million down, all the TV rights, the tickets, the packages, and ultimately, mate, I think you're going to lose season books. People no buy any merchandise, and the club is going to have the benefit of that extra cash, mate, as well.
I know. It's a worrying thought, Ryan. It's just so disheartening. Like in the Kairat games. I mean, I still believe that's on Brendan because we had a lot. We had enough there to beat that them. But if we got into if we got past them and into the Champions League, I mean, our bank balance would be even. It would have looked so much more healthier. I know it already is, but you just want to keep adding to that because it just tightens your grip on everybody else around about you. So we really missed the boat with that one. We should have qualified for Champions League this year, and next year now is became a must. We need to try and aim for that. Should be our goal to try and aim for that Champions League spot and get those funds because. That's where your status and that's where your power play comes from, having the money in the bank to do it. But I will just see, mate. We could be talking all this and we could end up having a absolutely brilliant January window and then go on to have a brilliant summer because, like you said, the model has worked to a degree over the years. It's the model that's gave us our financial stability. Yes, they didn't get it right this year, but who's to say they don't get? Who's to say that's not just a wee blip and they get it back next year? Who knows? But aye, like you said as well, mate, the market is ever evolving in it, and we are operating in a difficult market because JP always likes to allude to on the podcast that it's hard to draw players into this league. It's getting harder and harder to do it. I watched a podcast about Henrik Larsson on it, and he was talking about how players didn't want to come to Scotland back then. So what's it going to be like now? I think we were talking about it in the chat the other day there about how a deal could be all but done for Celtic, and then a team like Sunderland who's playing in the Premier League comes in for this player, and he's like, oh. Or just go to Sunderland, who's nowhere near the stature of Celtic, but they're playing in the Premier League and everything that comes with that, coming up against your Chelsea's, Man City's, Liverpool. That's attractive for players, so it's just difficult, Ryan.
No, I agree with you, mate. If somebody comes in for the Premier League before we get a deal done, it could scupper the deal. I just think we should be trying to get deals done quicker. The one that annoyed me in the summer, I know he's not done well since, but we can't say in foresight, as people say, that he would have failed at Celtic. But Kasper Dolberg, apparently they knew about him in July or June, that he was maybe available, or he was highlighted to Brendan Rodgers that he was available. Mm-hmm. Talking £8 to £10 million on his profile. Do you see profile before we sign him? International experience, played in tournaments, Champions League, done well with Anderlecht, Ajax in the past. Probably the profile you want. I think he's 27, 28, Dolberg, I might be wrong, but good age, could potentially still sell him on to done well at Celtic. They left it to the last 3 days, and because they didn't get deal done, finally, it's finalised, Ajax knew the interest and they went in and got him. So that's my bugbearers. Why are they taking so long? I know it's no a 2-minute job, right? I know you need to go through maybe family, need to move house, maybe move the kids. Is that bonuses, agent fees? I get all that. It can take time, but surely if you want him and you think he's a guy for you, you try and get it wrapped up as soon as possible and don't leave it. Surely, Shaun, I know you need to get the value, but I'm not expecting Celtic to spend £50 million a player and get for 80 million. But I think as much as we don't want to give guys 55 a week, 50 a week, I don't want it to upset the apple cart of the team. But I think sometimes for a certain quality of player, your number 9, sometimes you need to do it, mate, because if we don't, we're going to be buying maybe players at £2 million, paying them £10,000 a week, and they're not going to do well. Ultimately, you can counter-argue that and say, we won't forget a gem, and they work it well. Brilliant. Hope that happens, but we can't keep expecting to sign players £1 million, mate, and expect them to be belters because it's not always going to happen.
I know, mate. As difficult argument, this one, isn't it? Because, you know, we have signed players that you obviously get more quantity when you're signing cheap, when you're signing like players
Yeah.
about $1 million to $3 million. You're getting more quantity, and your only hope is that in one of them, you know, you're going to get a wee gem like your Matt O'Reilly's. That's going to obviously, you know, just get better and better, and then go to sell for big money. Or you spend that wee bit more money on, you know, somebody who's got a higher value in the hope that they bring better quality to your team right away, and still, you know, you still see a profit when you sell them on, which is, you know, it's hard because we've spent big money on Ida, Engels, Trusty, and right now we're not seeing any profit for the guys. Obviously, Ida, I think he left for $7 million, didn't he? Is it 7?
It was about £2 million loss, mate. Aye.
We got 9. We signed him for 9. He left for 7. But I was thinking there, obviously, the Dolberg one, there wouldn't have been much risk involved in that in hindsight, because we ended up selling Ida for $7 million. So if we'd have went and got Dolberg for the $8 or $9 million they were asking straight away, if it was just a case of paying it and no haggling, which I don't know, I don't know how that went down. But if we're saying it was just a case of they didn't want to pay the $8-9 million there, then you would only really been, you know, losing out on, you know, $1 million or $2 million because of the sale of Ida. But again, they wouldn't have known that either. But there must have been interest in Ida. Somebody must have come in and said they were interested in Ida. That couldn't have just been an overnight thing. That must have been something that was ongoing as well. So I don't know how the transfers work, mate. It's something it frustrates me every time it comes round, because I'm just like, we know what we need. Yep. The only time I felt like we ever really had it, you know, really good in terms of transfer windows was under Ange. It just seemed to be like with Ange, but I don't know if it was because the players Ange were bringing in suited what the board's model was, because he was bringing guys in that were quite cheap, and then you know, they were either getting profit on them, or there wasn't much risk involved in it because you weren't getting them in cheap.
JP, I do get JP's point, but I've said to you in the chat, and other people have got a counter argument to this as well. But JP says, I think the heavens we didn't sign Dolberg. I really do, because 8-10 million him could have. Imagine the fallout. He's been horrendous. You're right, JP. It has been horrendous. But there was no reason to say that he would have been like that for Celtic. We can't say he would have been like that for us. The same with Kitsesgarden. Look at Kyogo. Left Celtic, no scored a goal, but because there was rumours about him, or get him back because it's Kyogo. Take away Kyogo's name, you wouldn't touch him. So I get what you're saying, JP. I don't know what you're thinking that, Shaun, but I think Dolberg could have been a success here, but it could have been a failure. But I'm going to try and be positive here and say that it would have been a decent signing for Celtic, because as a lesser league as well, the Dutch league, there's no as many better teams in, apart from Celtic Rangers. I know Hearts have done well, but nobody knew Hearts would have been the way they are. I'd have liked to think Dolberg would have done here, and especially for Europe for us, would have been better than Johnny Kenny or Maeda, who's not a proven number 9. Maybe it's just me, Shaun. I'm trying to be positive on the Dolberg signing, but I was a big advocate for getting him in. Experienced, know-how, been there and done it. I personally, just me, mate, there'd be a lesser chance in failing than going and signing £2 million on Yamada, who has scored 6 goals in a league that we don't really know much about, and we don't know the quality levels. But at least with Dolberg, we know the quality he's played at, and we know how he possibly could have played at Celtic.
Aye, the two yourself and JP both make really good, strong points. You do never know with a signing, so you're basing it off A, the league they're playing in, you know, B, their stats coming for that league, and obviously C, your scouting. How's your scouting been with this person? So there is obviously a lot of that, and obviously Celtic did identify him as a target, so they must have liked what they've seen of him, and sometimes just that it doesn't fit for a player whenever they are. So I do understand what you're saying, Ryan, and I do agree because I even look at Pookie when he was up here, he couldn't he couldn't do anything, he couldn't hit a barn door, and then he goes down south and he's fucking he was absolutely tremendous. His goal was turned in there. So you just cannot tell. Could you even look at Jota, for example? Jota went to the Saudi the league and didn't do nothing there. Came back to Celtic and it looked exactly like Jota that just left. So, and I understand what JP's saying. If it did go the way that we spent 8-10 million for him, and he comes in and he's as bad as us as what he has been for them, then it's back to the board haven't got a clue what they're doing. They're signing guys like that, need the wants, and because I always wanted the board to go and get Ida, and we did go and get Ida. They paid the money for him, and he just didn't. He just couldn't. I think Ida just could not live up to the price tag that came to him and the demands that were set at Celtic. I thought obviously when he was on his loan spell, the pressure wasn't on him as much because he hadn't signed and he hadn't came at that price tag, and he knew regardless he was going back home his parent club, so it's a free hit to come up play with a boyhood team and get a good bash, and he was obviously tremendous on his loan spell, but when he came for his full time, mate, he was absolutely dreadful, and he's been dreadful ever since he left us. So there's so much risk involved, Ryan, but I can see as well for the board's point of view, buy in cheap, and it's not as big a gamble as going out and spending 8, 9, 10 million on a player. But again, as you said, the market's changing. We're want to try and move the club in a different direction as well. So do we need to start spending a couple 8, 9 million on players every transfer window or every summer to try and just add their quality into the squad?
And I understand that I'm only saying that obviously if we're in the Champions League, because I think if we're not the Champions League, then we'll just say this season, Shaun, right? The positives is we win the league, we get in the Champions League, we win the playoff. I'd be expecting a £9 million striker or a £7 million midfielder because you've got the money to do it, and you're going, no matter the money you spend, you're going to get it back for qualifying and potentially you might sell one of your assets, right? But if we don't win the league and we don't get in the Champions League, we might get in Europa League. Naturally, I think we'd probably all understand we will need to cut losses. We will need to not spend as much on transfers and wages. Some players might need to go. Contracts might need to get some wages took off them. I understand that, right? I'm like you. I think for the odd certain player or the odd maybe game changer, you can spend a wee bit more money, but ultimately it has to be in the Champions League. But game tomorrow, Shaun, obviously, I think out the last 10 games with Falkirk, we've scored 33 goals. I think we've only beat once or something in 22 games, something like that. All the stats go for Celtic winning tomorrow. I know we've lost 3 of the last 4 away games in the league, but I know Falkirk are sitting 7th in the league. They're doing pretty well. It is a terrible, the surface isn't great, I know that, but ultimately, Shaun, if we want to go win the league now, I think JP said it the other day as well with Daniel yesterday, every game's kind of a cup final now. We need to win every game. I don't think we can drop any more points. We need to go on a wee bit of a run. So tomorrow, mate, ideally you want to go and score a few goals and put on a show, but I think it's just get the victory, cut up the road. I'm not saying you've got a free hit on Sunday because you need to be respectful to Auchinleck, but you'd like to think you'll go to Auchinleck, hopefully score a few goals, hopefully win the game, no injuries, and then we go on. We've got Hearts as well coming up. We go and focus on that. But we need to beat Falkirk first. You still need to beat Auchinleck. Need to give them every respect. But tomorrow's a must-win game, mate. And no matter how you play, you want to win 4, 5, 6. You want to win comfortably, but just win the game, mate, and hopefully we do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Tomorrow is the first and main focus is get in there, get the job done, get the win, get back up the road. The Auchinleck game will take care of itself because even as you say, you've got to give respect to them as well, and it's a game's a game, anything can happen. But you would like to think even if you started that game heavily with your reserves, using up your squad. Even if something does go wrong, you've got the quality on the bench to maybe come on and influence it. So I think main focus should be obviously get all the boys that are fit and available. The more our best first team out. I'd probably go unchanged, to be honest, for the weekend. Thought we played brilliant at the weekend, Ryan. We were really slick. And I think tomorrow we will get the win, but we do need to go on a run of games. We need to build momentum behind us again and really charge on and put some pressure on the teams round about us.
I don't know if we've got a Sunderland fan in the chat or a Rangers fan. I don't know, but he's saying that Sunderland are bigger than Celtic. Listen, Sunderland are a big club in England. So listen, Newcastle are very, very good, massive club. Newcastle are bigger than Sunderland. Whether or not you're a Sunderland fan or not, Newcastle are bigger than Sunderland. Newcastle are a very, very big team. One of the biggest in England. But Celtic are worldwide. Sunderland not worldwide compared to Celtic. They're a big club.
No comparison.
Big club by players, Paul, but Sunderland have got a bigger budget than Celtic. They're playing a massive league. They get more sponsorship. It's going to happen. It's the same as West Ham. West Ham are not bigger than Celtic, but West Ham's got more money because of where they are. I'll may as well have a conversation with this show for 2 wee seconds. If Celtic were in the Premier League, give it 5 years, mate, they'd be top 10 every year because of the finances, the stature of the club, the history, how you would try and get to get these players. The bigger players would come because of Celtic in England. I don't think it's ever going to happen. It's probably a discussion that doesn't need to happen, but just a wee throw up here. Not JP, I'm not rising it, mate. I'm just saying we're having a wee conversation, good conversation. Celtic, within 5 years, with the infrastructure in terms of money that Sunderland get, West Ham get, Brighton, Celtic would definitely be top 10 and potentially challenging.
Well, of course, they get not to try and be disrespectful to the guy, but he clearly doesn't understand, the modern day game and history is Celtic, and just what this, how far this club reaches, and how, like you said, worldwide. There is no way. There's no many clubs in football that are bigger than Celtic. There is.
Sorry to cut you off here, Sean. Here's one for you, right? See me go on holiday. By the way, this even goes for Rangers, right? Even though it's a different club, etc., right? But it's still Rangers, right? They're a massive, massive club, Rangers, right? No matter what anybody says, see me go abroad. How many Celtic and Rangers strips do you see? Just about everywhere. That's how big they are, mate.
I'm telling you right now, mate, Joe Hart won't be able to go anywhere in the world without being stopped by a Celtic player. And I guarantee you, before Celtic could have been anywhere in the world and not been stopped by Man City fans, because there's no the same reach. Anybody who thinks that Celtic are bigger than Sunderland is just, I can't have a discussion with somebody like that. They're not on the same football wavelength as me because they're not living in reality, mate. It's just no true. Celtic, there's not many clubs out there that, and if you want to include Rangers in it as well and give them their due, there's no many clubs out there bigger than Celtic and Rangers in terms of their reach and in terms of fan base all over the world. So for anybody to come in here who claims that they know football and watch football and obviously support football, to not have that basic knowledge of how high Celtic are in terms of fan base and reach around the world, it just doesn't show them in a good light, Ryan.
Aye, and I'm agreeing with you, mate, so we'll cut that short because it's not a big conversation, but the guy, you're spot on, mate, absolutely spot on. And in terms of the game tomorrow, like you mentioned, must win, mate. Have you got an idea of the team? Do you think it'll be the same team roughly, or do you think maybe there'll be a few changes because obviously we've got another game on Sunday? I know it's all correct, but I really want to still try and give them as much respect as possible because it's a game of football. We've seen Darrell beating Aberdeen, so I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but you need to give every team respect. But do you think there'll be any changes, mate, or are you similar to me that you need to try and keep momentum? I know Jan, I'm not his biggest fan, but the last few weeks he's been really good. Taneki done well the weekend. a wee bit of momentum. Engels played well again, so there's a bit of momentum there, mate, that you, as long as you're all fit, you just keep the same team and try and get the victory.
I think probably would keep the same team, mate. The only maybe slight change I would maybe, take Hatate out of the team and maybe put McCowan or Nygren in there. But I'd be happy even if he didn't. It was just unchanged, same team. Because I think that team done enough and can do enough to go there and win tomorrow. I would possibly do that as well, JP. But I wouldn't be against Hatate starting either, because I think he did still have a decent game. But if I see any area getting freshened up or somebody getting took out, it would be that Hatate position. I think Auchinleck will take care of itself once we just get tomorrow out of the way. There's still a good wee bit of rest time before that game, so I think tomorrow we will win. Maybe might be a hard fought one just with the pitch and obviously the time of year and the weather's been miserable. I look outside the room and I wouldn't want to be out in it, so it might be difficult, but I still think we've got enough there to get the job done. Maybe 2-0, maybe 3-1 or something like that.
I agree with you, Shaun. But I think the wee bit of a bounce we've got for the weekend, scoring 4 goals, a clean sheet, I think it's with a wee small bit of momentum from that. I'm not going to sit and say that everything's back to everything's rosy, because we all know it's not. But try and get one of the games now, try and beat Falkirk. As much as Auchinleck, still a victory. You know yourself, played football, showing momentum, and football's massive. So obviously the last wee tiny bit before we end the show, mate, obviously the news about Jota, probably not going to play the rest of the season. It is a blow. I kind of had the idea it might not play. Obviously having that similar injury myself, I know how hard it is to come back from that injury. Obviously he's full time, far better facilities and rehab than me, but he's obviously maybe had some setbacks, and if it's his hamstrings or everything else. What's your thoughts on him, mate?
Oh, I just absolutely gutted, mate. I remember when he first got the injury and they were talking about December, January. I remember thinking, I hope it's December. It's a gutter, isn't it? Actually, because a lot of the past few games, they've shown you in the stands. I don't know if you've noticed that. Like they've panned around and you've seen like Jota, Carter Vickers and that in the stands, and I was thinking to myself, is that a wee sign that maybe he's getting there? He's back out. He's watching the games, and it's a gutter because he's so talented, man. But listen, if it's the end of the season, he's out till then he gets a full pre-season in him, and then he's ready to go for next season, mate. So it'll be like and effectively be like having a brand new signing. So let's just hope his recovery continues in the trajectory that it is. He gets a full pre-season under him, and he's ready to go next year, because we'll certainly need him, Ryan.
Yeah, obviously that puts a highlight on potentially a hope for another winger as well into the team, because as much as he's been an amazing servant for us, can we really rely on Forrest at the moment? I don't know. I don't think so. Barrett, we've not seen much of him, so I think we're crying out for our winger, Shaun. If we can get our winger in, I know there's talk about I think he's Uruguayan from Argentina, so yeah, hopefully we can get that deal done as well. It will help the team. Again, I don't know much about him. We just need to obviously hope that we get that in. But again, mate, good to get your thoughts. Good to have you on, mate, before the game tomorrow. And the transfer news, it's probably going to be a topic of conversation for every podcast we do. And if other Celtic fan it's in pubs or other podcasts, it's going to be the conversation. I hope the rest of the chat and the comments, hope you're very well the rest of the night. Enjoy the game tomorrow if you go. JP said we've signed a centre forward, have we? Obviously we are live. I've not checked my phone, so if we sign somebody, JP, you can update us when we're live. I don't know. I'm ready to find out when we come off this. Shaun, I don't know. I don't know if he's just trying to get my hopes up and trying to get the tissues out for us. We've got a centre back. I don't know, but it's Nigel. Sorry. He's He's at the bam up. He's saying your dad sells Avon. He's getting our hopes up, mate. I thought we had an exclusive there.
Delete him. Block him.
Aye, block him. Aye, he's let the wind up. But aye, cheers, JP. I was about to get the tissues out there and celebrate, but obviously no. But aye, Shaun, hope you enjoy your rest of your night, mate. Hopefully we're celebrating tomorrow and we get a victory. But until then, mate, I'll see you all very soon. Shaun, take care, mate, and hail, hail.
Good seeing you, mate. Take care. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail, mate.
Sets up Larsson here. Larsson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! O'Reilly, how about that for a pass? Jota! How about that for a finish? That is Jota for you! In for Henrik Larsson, and Moravcik! His first goal for Celtic! Here is Shunsuke Nakamura! Exquisite!